Good morning, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. You can always reach me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. If you have somebody that would be a great guest, or if you'd like to be a great guest, you're always welcome to hit me up at that email. That's edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. And I have, again, I'm just killing it with guests right now. I have another great guest today that I met through the chamber years ago. And, honestly, I think I'm just getting old. I don't even remember how we met or why we met, but we connected when we met, and it's had we've had a relationship for a couple of years, mostly via social media, but I always look at this guy's post because he's always doing something interesting. So Nathan Byrd is here today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his business. We're going to talk about life, and we're just going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We don't know where we're going. Nathan, thanks for being on, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Ed. I'm looking forward to getting into this.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this, what you were just telling me about Alaska. I didn't know you were from Alaska, by the way, but.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Alaska, and, it's one of the most beautiful states in the world, I feel, and definitely in the nation. There's mountains left and right from me. This morning I just stopped and took a picture of two moose outside, my window. So that was pretty cool. And for me, it's just a place of solace. You can get up here and just relax. And really you can strategically plan because it's not really in the hustle and bustle of the lower 48, and the cities are a little bit different. Mm-hmm.
I have a friend of mine, actually, when I met you, I was probably working at Allstate Moving Systems.
Yes.
And the owner of that company has an island up there that he's built out. I think there's 4 or 5 structures he put up on this island that for his grandkids and friends to come up and everything. So when he is up there, I always see pictures, and it just looks beautiful. I've never been there, but it looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's just a flight
away. What are you
away.
doing? Tell me what you're doing up there now.
Well, so there's a few things. It was a strategic move from San Diego to Alaska, May 1st last year. And we looked at a few things. Number one, with the changing of times and the changing of certain, aspects of, the health field, and making sure that we can really help people with their mental state of mind and allow them to, get away and retreat to a place that they feel that they can really have comfort in. So we wanted to build this retreat, and currently all of last year we took video, we took pictures, we scouted out the area for places that we could rent and host, and then we also, through my network of connections, we have a very strong connection network of people that can provide fun things to do, like fishing and touristy activities, kayaking, mountain biking, and things like that. So I know the people that own these different things, so we can provide them for people that come up to Alaska. In addition to that, we have put together a template where we can help not only couples, but individuals break through a series of breaking down walls and building them back up.
Nice. My wife and I had the opportunity, the first time we've been on a vacation alone in 22 years, because we have a big brood of kids and grandkids. And we were in Hawaii, and I don't think I've ever been so relaxed in my life. I would get up every morning at sunrise and go out and watch the sunrise and just sit by the beach by myself, no one around, no noise except for the ocean. And it was truly something I never realized I was capable of doing because of growing up in a city, growing up in San Diego. I like the city. I like
yes.
You said you saw 2 moose this morning. I saw, 48 soccer mothers because I took and soccer dads because I took the kids to school. So that's kind of my reality. Yes. But this sounds intriguing. So these couples can come up, or individuals, and just kind of participate in a bunch of relaxing, kind of away from the lower states.
Well, so there's number one, a relaxation, then number 2, intentionality. So we're very intentional, my wife and I, about living in general. So we have to question exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, and for how long we're going to do what we do. And so, these retreats, yes, there's a relaxation period, but there's also a challenge period, an inspiration period, and then we get into actual work. So that's mindset work. That's understanding how you can, no limits, but how can you increase your limits, right? and how can you get a little bit uncomfortable. So
Right.
that's what we believe in. We don't believe in just, playing it safe in life. We believe about getting outside of your comfort zone. So that's what we're building. And, we believe that we can do this anywhere, but Alaska obviously is a very alluring place for a lot of
Sure.
people.
And is this religious based? Is there a base in religion?
So with this, there's, we're a men and women of faith myself, but
Okay.
this is very, it's open to all. And, we just want to show people that we love them through our actions, and through, the way that we create these platforms for people. So that's really at the heart of it. Is we love people, and we want to just show them, number one, a good time, but number two, help them really seek and reevaluate who they are, and set these boundaries and goals for them, because sometimes it takes somebody from the outside point of view to look at your life and help you establish these next level goals and stuff. So that's what we
Yeah.
believe.
So I've said this on my podcast before. My wife and I, a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, someone from Tony Robbins came to the chamber and talked to us, and they were offering a pretty good deal for his, 4 days of whatever, whatever was walking on coals or whatever. And I thought, my wife had never been to anything like that. So I thought, well, this would be a good couples thing for us to kind of go do. And she can see where I'm coming from a lot of time. When, she'll read a novel about romance, I'll read a novel about business, right? Or motivation or something like that. And as we started to think about it and talk about it before we paid for it, we said, is this going to help us get over what's limiting us in our life right now that was not taking us to that next level? And we both agreed that it was really our physical looks, our physical abilities, and things like that. So instead of going to that Tony Robbins thing, we hired a trainer and ended up being very successful, losing a lot of weight, getting in, probably the best shape of our life. Although COVID's not been a friend of mine in that respect now, but it was much better because I wanted to get up and speak in front of people. And I thought, if I looked better, if I was thinner, if I was, better prepared, it would help me with more limitations, or getting over those limitations. And that was kind of the heart of this podcast, was how to get over those limitations. And what you're talking about is exactly that, kind of looking at your life and saying, what's holding me back from that next level, of whether it's business or relationships.
I have something to interject with that specific thought process. And it's about assessing who you are, but also who you're becoming. And many people feel that they're inadequate because they haven't reached a certain pinnacle of quote unquote success in the eyes of the people around them. And what it is you are a success for simply continuing and pursuing the journey of betterment. So think about it is you have and you've had the talent, you've had all of the resources, the mindset. It's just the confidence portion. So what you need to do is just begin, and then you need to share your journey as you have gone through that process, which will then motivate people along the way. So then, you don't have to get to a certain pinnacle and then you can start. It's just continue, share with people the journey, which is more transparent, and then you'll have more of a following.
And that is what's happened in the last 6 months. So we moved out of a house and from an area we grew up in. We both grew up in Poway, moved into San Diego, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but we're outside of where our comfort zone was, right? And part of my continuing goal was to get better, was to share what I've learned, was to be very transparent about my life, open up my life to a lot of people so that I could get them understanding that it's very possible for them to move forward, right? I did a podcast on worthiness, right? When I grew up, it seemed like I always had friends that had more than me, or their parents had more. And I didn't feel like, because I wasn't educated in the same way, that I didn't deserve to have those things. And that's kind of what you were just talking about. We tend to hold ourselves back because we don't feel that we're worthy to have, whether it's material things or that relationship or whatever.
Yes.
My wife and I, we dated for 4 years before we got married. And this was after, failed relationships. And we talked about expectations, which I brought up when we were talking before. It's, I have in my opinion, expectations are huge in any relationship, right? What do you expect from me? What I expect from you? And they're so misunderstood so many times. Do you guys get into those, do you get into that realm of things with your couples?
Yeah. So I would say me and Lacy, we have our, uh, let's see, tussles, how, growth opportunities is what we
Yeah.
like to call them.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, because look, you've got to have a perspective. And anyway, so we definitely have, we personally have gone through certain things that, has been detrimental to our relationship, but only we've grown from that. So, we were separated for a little while. We got back together, which was a wonderful thing. And that's why we're so focused on couples, because of our personal experience. So we want to create our mess into a message. You've heard that multiple times probably, but we certainly have gone through tests, and we want to create that to be a testimony for others, so then they can follow along, and then they can feel confident that they can really get along with each other. So, to answer your question, that's a portion of the retreat. We've certainly put that into it. We're not counselors by any means, and I don't want to
Right.
say that that's what we do. We want to facilitate, and we have facilitated platforms that will help and have helped couples along the way from our experiences, the tools that we read through, the different books that we have, and the people that are mentoring us in our relationship. So we are a conduit of information, and that's what we believe in. So yes, to answer your question, that is a portion of what we are putting together.
Well, and I think if a couple is going to go on this journey, right, they have expectations in their mind, right? So I was writing a speech about if I walk out on a stage, you have certain expectations. First of all, you judge me right away, which is okay because we all do that. That's just human nature. And then you have an expectation of whether I'm going to give you something of value that you can take with you, or are you just going to stay on your phone and because your boss made you go watch me speak or whatever the reason, or it was free or whatever. So I think that expectations are huge in your realm, just because when people come to see you, they're having some expectations of some kind of success by the time they leave. But you're doing something smart and you're putting it on them, right? It's not you saying, we're going to tell you these things, and if you do these things, you're going to be successful. They're having to create their own picture in their mind of where they're going to go with this.
Yeah, they create their own reality, but we know that as soon as we're transparent as a couple, we immediately break down the walls that people may have and their expectations that they've already created. So we squash that immediately. And we do that by transparency. So, as soon as someone comes to us and says or thinks that we're a certain way because of our appearance, we immediately say, it's not like that. We've gone through trials and tribulations, and we want to share that with you. And that immediately allows us to break bread and have common ground to then build a relationship.
Well, and that's what I kind of strive for in my podcast as well, is that, listen, I've been through it. This is what happened to me. It could have been an outside thing. It could have it's inside. It's what I've done, the actions or lack of actions that I've taken, and it's got me to that point. And it's encouraging people. I'm hoping to get into that younger, 20 to 35-year-old new parents, things like that, to let them know that, look, first of all, I want to put my arms around those people virtually and say, look, everything's going to be okay. And then secondly, what kind of action can you take to be successful at, whatever it is? And you are worthy, by the way. You do have value in life. You have value to a lot of different people, possibly ones you don't even know.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and one thing here is, through our experiences, this could be business and life. It's truly about taking ownership, and it's about saying, hey, listen, I messed up, or I did do well in this area, right? So it's all about taking ownership of who you are, but then also who you want to be. And then just realizing that there are steps that you must take, and there are failures that you must go through in order to get to that envisionment, or, your pentacle of who you want to be. But man, there's going to be trials throughout that road.
Sure.
And just honestly having expectations of failure, but using that failure as a propulsion to your success. So as soon as it's just a mindset shift. So as soon as you fail, say, that gives me fuel. It's not
Yes.
like, oh, it's going to bring me down a few steps. It's, let's turn on the gas because we're excited about failure. So winning with failure, that's what I like to call it.
And I look back and when you see those memes about failure, I look back in my life and a little bit longer life than you so far. And I don't know, a lot of times when I failed, it was on me, right? It wasn't that I necessarily failed. I either lost interest or I decided to shift directions. So I think when you continue to tell yourself you're failing, it's kind of a negative, right? Versus what you just said is that you just shift that mindset, right? You get, well, that wasn't what was going to make me successful in that area. So I need to shift it a little bit. I kind of wanted to get to a point where I was doing something that I loved, that I could get up every morning and go, man, I want to get on a podcast and talk to some new people and share those stories with, and it's happening. I mean, dude, like I said, I did my first podcast in January, right? January
Yes.
or February. And I've got like 40 or 50 in the can right now.
No,
And
I'm very excited for you.
now I'm getting people contacting me saying, hey, can you come out here and do a podcast with me? And I'm like, wow, this thing is definitely growing. My listenership's going up. I've teamed up with 2 companies that do a supplemental education program for kids that either that are usually not college bound. It could be high risk kids where they can learn some skills through mentorships or through communicating with their parents and learn those human skills in life, right? We have a lot of graduating geniuses that can't shake someone's hand. And so that's kind of taken me through another direction too. And through my promotional products that I sell, it helps me in that area too, because I'm able to help people brand themselves. And that's that big EF behind you. That's my brand that I'm just pushing out there all the time. So let's talk about, I'm going to shift directions on you a little bit.
Sure.
The last few weeks, for some reason, this leadership issue has come up 100 times, right? I watch people talk about leadership, Simon Sinek, Gary Vee. I listen to these guys and I'm like, first of all, I asked a question in a podcast a couple of weeks ago. Do we need leadership, right? Are we, and I think that's an obvious question. Yes, we do. But most of the leaders that I've encountered in my life, I didn't know they were leaders until I was either separated from them or whatever. You know what I mean? Like my mom, right? My mom wasn't these polarizing people that walked into a room and everybody went, oh, Ed's mom's here. She just did everything kind of in the back, in the backstage stuff to keep us fed and to keep us moving forward and to be confident. Do you guys talk about leadership in your group, or is there a piece to that?
Well, so just to set it straight, so me and my wife, we live out every aspect of the different businesses that we operate. So it's more of a lifestyle for us because we're creating a lifestyle brand that has multiple arms, and the retreat is just one section.
Right.
So the leadership portion, I used to work with a leadership development course in California called the Callan course, created by Paul Callan, and out of Poway. He was the vice president of PKL Services. And so he taught me quite a few things. But I think the number one thing you want to ask is, who would you follow and why would you follow them? And then there are servant leaders out there. And for me, I like to follow the people that remain humble, that are true to their word, so they have integrity. And for me, that's everything. So there's character and integrity, and those two things, that really then gets into, your compass of right and wrong, which is a deeper rooted issue, which that would go down a pretty long road in this podcast. But for me, surface level would be character, integrity, doing what you say you're going to do over the course of time, to be consistent. So that is because you can have the wool over your eyes for, let's just say, a month, maybe 2, but you'll start to see a breakdown in character for those people that are in forms of leadership based on their characteristic traits that break down over the course of time.
Right.
So it's important for you to be aware of that, but also be aware of that for yourself as a leader. So, it's this constant reassessment and course correction of who you are, but who you're also becoming, but also who you're following. So those are just some of my takes on leadership.
Those are awesome takes, because what I was doing is when I would have somebody on my podcast, I would ask them three questions actually. I'd say, have you ever worked for or been involved with a good leader? And ironically enough, I can't get, you just told me you were, because in a roundabout way, I could not get people to go, yes, I had this guy or this girl that did. It was just odd to me that no one could come up with, and I can't come up with somebody that I would follow, that I would, pick out as a good leader. And as I started digging into this, I started finding that I did know a lot of good leaders. They just they didn't have a sign on them that said I'm a leader, right? They were just those people of high integrity. Remember Vern Marston from the Chamber? Old guy, he used to go around and shake everybody's hand. You probably met him. You probably just don't remember. The second question was, did you ever have a teacher during your educational period? I did not. I went to college later on something completely different that I don't even involved with. Did you have any teachers that stuck out, right? And do you think that people are born great, or do they develop greatness over time? Now, the people that say I'm going to be great and they go out and tell everybody that I'm great are usually the ones that aren't great, right? That's the character part of it.
So my belief, and that, this is right or wrong, whatever you want to take it, but so the diamond is created by pressure, and the pressure is the really the ecosystem and the surrounding of that individual that then creates the diamond, right? I can look at myself, and then I can also maybe speak to the viewers about, maybe their situations. But for me, I was in sports, right? In sports, there was discipline, there was team, there was leadership, people that were always evolving. You could see the different personalities that would emerge. And I had very good coaches throughout my entire life, throughout sports. I excelled and went to the college level of athletics. So then I was coached even more and led by those coaches. And then right after that, I got into more business coaching and leadership coaching and reading books. John C. Maxwell is one of my favorites. There's a book, it's called the 101 Leadership Series by John C. Maxwell. If you guys haven't got it, it's a wonderful book. And so for me, there's been teachers, and I've sought after it, but not very many people seek after that right now.
100%.
So you have to have a thirst for it, but also to answer your question, I believe leaders are made, and they're also made through their circumstances. And of course, there are certain personalities that will emerge, throughout life, but that's also a direct correlation to your environment. So, be cognizant of your environment, and then also really have a definition of who you in essence want to become, right? And then be okay with certain things of how life, ebbs and flows. So you have to be okay with, things that change.
And sports is a great analogy for life, just period, because for a lot of different reasons. I always say that, the Tom Brady's and the Michael Jordans and all these guys of the world, they were experts at doing the same thing over and over the same way, right? Kind of boring in a way, right? Kind of a golfer being able to hit the ball the same way and be able to steer that shot versus me, who, if you're standing behind me, you need to be careful. You need to be wearing a helmet when I golf. But I was listening to a motivational kind of thing. It was about they were speaking about SEALs and how the Navy SEALs are like the ultimate warriors in the world and this and that. And I thought, it's hard to relate to a Navy SEAL. I'd never been in the military. I can read stories about them. I can read books about them, and I can go, wow, those guys are the coolest in the world. But it's hard for me to relate because I was never in the Navy. I think it's important for us to look, like you said, look for leaders in our neighborhood, right? In our families, in our work environment in our community, things like that, that are really true leaders. Vern was one of these guys that just did everything under the radar. He was just really consistent, got really good at doing things, and you know what you were going to get, and it was always inspiring. You were going to get something from him.
Well, so a big thing about leadership, I don't need to tell anyone I'm a leader. They're just going to see by my actions and throughout the course of time.
Yes.
So I've got so many good people in my life right now, as far as business mentorship and physical mentorship and things like that. So it's like they just do, and then people follow because they do, and they don't say anything, they just do it. And those are the people that I respect the most. And of course, the ability to have someone that's also transparent and in the public eye that can maintain that composure is also, someone that I really respect. And, I personally hope to be in that category for a lot of people, and just to maintain integrity, maintain character, and be a rock solid individual throughout the course of my life. So, that was a challenge that I asked myself at a very early age. I'm not the same as everyone out there, but it was, how will I become a rock for the people that I know in my life, right? So what do I have to do in order for that to happen? Well, I've got to constantly reach out to people and make sure that I'm there for them, but also, I have to fill my own cup so that I can be there for them. So anyway, that's another conversation.
You have an amazing way with words, and I really appreciate your intelligence in that arena. But you are like that, Nathan, and I'll tell you why I know that. It's just because when we met, the things we had talked about, the things that you do on social media that are very consistent. And I read a book one time by Matthew Kelly, and he's the dynamic Catholic, but away from Catholicism, he was a business coach, right? He would go to these Fortune 100 companies and teach leadership and things like that. And he talked about the saints and how saints would string these little holy moments together. And it wasn't, they weren't born saints. A couple were, but only two. And they would string these little moments together. And I think that's what we need to be doing in business and in life, is stringing those little moments together, right? And as they get strung together, and that's your integrity, that's your character, that's your consistency as you're stringing these little things together.
Well, think about it like this. So I'm obviously cognizant of those that are, that have, some form of faith, they have a religious background. I don't like to say religion, because that's a term that is used loosely, and a lot of people, sometimes are turned off by that. But, those that are faith-based, right? And what does it take to have a solid faith? Well, you have to be consistent, and you have to be disciplined. So, that's a lot of what, faith and religion has. So it's like, that is a very good ingredient for someone to be in business as well. So, there are those out there that take advantage of that you have to be aware of.
Yes.
And they use that card. But like I said before, you will see, you will feel, and you will know that person, through their course of action, over the course of time, will lose character, and those aren't the real deal. Those aren't the real people. So anyway, long story short, faith equals discipline and consistency. So that's why you have a lot of business coaches that have that type of background.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of, and I would say people my age, executives, CEOs, things like, I did not want to do, I have no interest in going to a 60-year-old guy, woman, and coaching them how to be better at what they do. If they haven't figured it out by that time, they're probably just waiting to retire, and it's killing businesses, because their culture is, they want the culture to change, but they don't want to change. They think they're too old. They think they don't have the ability to do that. And that's why I'm so, I guess I'm getting to the point where most of my go-to friends are younger people that have this hunger, right? And I want to encourage them to continue to have that hunger and be that 60-year-old person. They're going to get there, right? They're going to get there eventually. I think it's hard to see past, especially kids in high school or just out of high school. I think it's hard to see past 30 years old that you might be a parent, you might be a whatever. And so I'm really encouraging young people to just, get this foundation, like you're talking about, this leadership foundation, these little holy moments, and just continue to do them, and it will turn into something. It will, and you may not even know what it's going to turn into, but if you take that integrity, if you take that high character line, it's going to lead you to a leadership area for yourself to be good.
Well, I can tell you this in firsthand experience with the relationships that I built over the course of time. So it's interesting. I mean, we have known each other now for a long time.
Yeah.
And I have tried to maintain and also, view and watch and, be a part of your life as much as I can, right? So social media for me is allowing me to do that, but I don't need to have conversations with people. I keep tabs of that. So,
yes,
if I'm going to get your contact, or if I'm going to give you my contact, I make sure to stay in touch with you. Is it every week? Is it every month? Not really, but for me, it pays dividends, certainly, because, I remember when I was raising money for the last startup that I was working with, and I immediately had a network of people that, were very interested, and they believed and trusted in me because I've maintained that connection, maintained that character, and typically they just like you and they want to see what opportunities that you have just because you are you. So that has opened a lot of doors, and I fully intend to continue that trend.
Yeah, and I do the same thing. I'm very good about just getting on my email maybe or social media and just kind of reaching out to people that I know and just say, hey, is there anything I can help you with? How you doing?
Yep.
Kind of thing. Because I was dealing with this one nonprofit, and the guy says, well, what are you doing this for? What do you? I said, well, look, first of all, I'd never take money out of a nonprofit, especially a 501c3.
Yeah.
Personally, I just wouldn't. I just want, it's going to help my brand at some level, just to be transparent, that if I'm doing the right things for the right people, it's going to make me more popular. Listen, if Dr. Pepper wants to give me $1 million because I have 1 million listeners, that's fine with me, right? That's them doing their job. That's them getting their word out to the masses. But I would never do it the other way, where I said, like, if you're going to be part of my podcast, it's going to cost you this much money for a 501c3. That would be ridiculous. I would always help anybody I can. And I'm not blowing my own horn. I'm just saying, if you take that tack to help people first, instead of making the money first, I think that it creates that character, and it does help you ultimately with your brand, relationships, whatever it is, right? Because
I can speak to that. I can speak to that once again with, hybrid athlete training. Hybrid athlete training didn't start as just, an online fitness business, where we had multiple trainers. It began with us just doing boot camps in San Diego for free.
So I used to watch your stuff. I used to watch you guys do stuff that I couldn't do, and I was irritated at you, to be honest with you. Just kidding.
Well, it was all about just creating community, and it was about, living out what we talk about. It was about truly being a light to people that, we believe in growth, both my wife and I. So, and we believe in challenges. We believe in, inspiring others to get on another level. So when we started doing these boot camps, I had some previous business experience as to how to create networks and leverage, marketing and things like that. But I also know that the more people you can impact with, through leverage and through strategic connections, joint venture and things like that, you in essence can impact a lot of lives. So, we started just doing these things for free, and then we launched an online community. And then a lot of these people that have attended our boot camps are now a part of our online community because we can reach them anywhere. So it's a good deal.
No, that's awesome, dude. I'm inspired by you and your wife. I watch your videos, I watch whatever I can, and it's I'm really inspired by, it's funny, millennials, I'll just call you millennial because I don't know where the age thing is anymore.
32, just turned it.
Okay, so my kids go from 25 to 35, almost 35. Okay. And I'm very inspired by youth. I think millennials get a bad rap. I think young people get a bad rap a lot of time. I always make this joke. My dad, when I was young and kids didn't get up and go to work, and we did, he just called them dumbasses, right? Like Red on the '70s show. But yes, or you're always going to, I got news for you. There's lazy 60-year-olds too. I know them. I know some of them. I'm so inspired. I think that the biggest difference I can see from when I was young versus now is that we had no cause. We didn't have any, we weren't wanting to add value to society. We were trying to make money, period. That's kind of what it, just being personal saying, I think that's what it was about. And the younger people now have a cause, whether it's the environment, whether it's helping people, whether it's helping, senior citizens or whatever. I like that aspect of our younger people, that there's definitely, they're not as interested in material things. They're very interested in, making the world a better place, changing the world, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we've noticed that the leverage of social media and technology can be used to, a great impact. And it's really that choice and that decision as to if that is your mission or if that is not your mission. I mean, many people are self-serving, individualistic people, certainly more now than ever. But, it takes people like myself to inspire others to look outside of themselves, to look at a bigger purpose, to establish these missions, because we will die and we won't take any of our things with us. So, I know many people that are very financially, let's just say, wealthy, and some of their perceptions are a little skewed, but that is nothing against them. It's just there has to be a slight shift in perspectives. And it's over the course of time, right? That's how I look at it.
So social media, to me, I have many people my age are not interested, right? It's behind them. They don't care. They think it's bullshit. To me, I have more friends, for instance, in high school now than I had in high school, right? I'm able to keep up with people's families. When somebody is hurting, sometimes I'll put things out there and we can reach out to them and help them. I just had a good friend of mine just had a bout with cancer and just came home today. So I was able to see that. And, I was able to reach out with them and send some prayer hands or whatever, just to let them know that I care. And that on my birthday this year, I got over 500, happy birthday things, which just, warms your heart, right? I mean, people didn't have to take that 2 seconds, but they did. So every day when I get up, I come on my Facebook and I wish people a happy birthday, because it's just, you can use social media in so many great ways.
Yes.
And
well, so I kind of looked under the hood of what a social app looks like and how to build a social app. That's what we were doing with WordBeam. And I started to research the psychology of social media and really quite understand the exact things about a platform. And you just got to be cognizant of your actions, kind of set limits, understanding dopamine, understanding the exact psychology of what social media can do, but also it is a wonderful tool. I've used it, I've leveraged it multiple times to create events and to connect with people. So, even on LinkedIn is a wonderful social network as well, very professional in nature. And so anyway, it's just about being cognizant, setting your time limits, and then, understanding what is going on with your psyche and in your brain when, you get the 500 birthday, things, which isn't a bad thing, of course. And I just had that happen too with my birthday on the 14th. And it was like, oh man, I love everybody. And, so then I responded to everybody, because I just, I took like 2 hours out of my day and then just responded back to everybody private message. But
it's a good positive thing to do. One of the things in the Safe Steps, one of these programs that I'm involved with, is we do talk about social media and the dangers of social media, right? I went to my daughter once, this was years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and said, hey, I saw that post. It was actually longer than that you put on there. I would remove that post if it was me. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't inappropriate. It was just something that an employer may not want to see on social media. So that's one of the modules that we have we talk to these younger people about what, think about social media. This stuff's going to be there forever. I was thinking about this podcast. God forbid, I hope my life's long, but you never know what's going to happen. I've created kind of a library. I've talked about a lot of stuff in this last 10 months, and I've kind of created a library that that can be permanent, right? Can never go away. And I said, it's kind of interesting if my grandkids, they're young. I mean, my oldest one's only 14. If they ever wanted to go back and see what their grandfather was like, they could go back and listen to my podcast, right? It's kind of it's kind of a cool thought. It's like a time capsule, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, there's a lot of, but and it can be dangerous too. The other company I'm involved with uses Discord as an educational platform. So they go to Discord, they plug in, and then they can go and talk to mentors about, like you, they might talk to you about relationships or something like that. And when the guy asked me, do you know what Discord is? I said, well, I know what the word means. I don't know what it is. And come to find out, my grandson's on it. A couple other grandkids are on it. They go in and play games. And now I'm sure there's some horrible stuff on there too, right? I don't know anything about Discord.
That's social.
Yeah. So, but it's also this great, skyscraper of knowledge that you can go into and find rooms that are positive, things like that. So that's cool too. What else do you have your hands in these days? We have a little bit more time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, there's a few things I'm focused on. I was building a startup called WordBeam Inc. WordBeam is a social learning app, and I had some, we had some things happen with, our investor and with a vendor, and it really just, it was just a great learning experience for me, and building a company, having, managing hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then hiring out different contractors and creating a vision, creating a mission for a team, understanding the vetting process, creating an organization. And that was one of the best things that had happened to me over the last year. So, I was working on that, and recently we had to put that on pause. And then I transitioned from that into building our online, fitness and health company, which is basically an online gym and community, like I've said, which services, people anywhere between 30 to 65 years old. You can be younger, but that's kind of what our niche is. And we have online cooking classes, online live training sessions for people, and then we also have personal one-on-one coaches that will meet you where you're at, and then program a customized program for you.
Oh, nice.
Meet you via Zoom. Yeah,
that sounds cool.
We started that right when we moved up here, and then we caught the wave of COVID. We had a massive growth of about it was like a 5,000% growth.
Wow.
And then we started to look at various ways that we could expand. That expansion included adding 4 new coaches that are certified in training, to then service the existing customer base as well as the expanding customer base, because we're now looking to help with corporations in customizing their corporate packages for their health and wellness. And then we structured an app that people can just download to their phone that are a part of Hybrid, which allows them to track all of their nutrition metrics. They can watch the different videos that we're constantly creating, as well as the library of exercises that's already on the platform, as well as be a part of the different forums and threads to where you can communicate and have a social aspect to health and fitness.
Wow, man, you got a lot of irons in the fire, dude. But you're young, you can handle it. I have to raise my mentorship age to 35 now, since you're 32. So I have a mentor under 35.
Well, so yeah, I mean, we have multiple things, but it's about who is the team that you have in place to be able to manage those? How are you leveraging social media? How are you leveraging affiliates if you have a product that works? How are you also I mean, gosh, it's really about the team. And then, for me, I'm just an advisor in, making sure that each of these are running correctly. And then I bounce those ideas off of people that are very intelligent, to where I get the right the right advice, really. Also part of the Genius Network, and Genius Network is ran by Joe Polish. It's based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and it's a wealth of knowledge with many super smart people that are all mentors pretty much to me and Lacy. And I just, what I like to do is I like to build businesses, and I like to really consult with people throughout the phase from idea to creation to market to scale. So those are the things that I'm currently doing. Of course, I have to advise on hybrid athlete training, but for me, like I said, we have a platform where we have these avenues of growth that can help people grow. You say, hey, well, what does Nathan and Lacy do? Or what does Nathan do? Well, he believes in the growth of your health, the growth of your relationships, the growth of your, financial contribution or your time contribution to your community. So there are these pillars of success that we believe in, and we have to have different avenues or ways that we can create value for each of those categories. And they have to be in a form of a business. So, Treasure North is our relational retreat business, Treasure North LLC. Then the health portion is our hybrid athlete training online, social thing. And then through your community, we also have a community focused arm off of hybrid athlete training, to where we raise awareness and we raise funds for certain, nonprofits or community initiatives for, we want people to stay healthy, but then we also want to tie in health with the community. So become healthy, grow a stronger community, right? Through your mindset as well. And then for business, we have Growth Bounce, and Growth Bounce is just a business consulting firm that I run with a few other partners, and those partners help with website design, development, consultative approach, and then I just form the vision, and then I talk to businesses on a weekly basis.
Wow, man, dude, you got a lot of irons. You guys don't have any kids yet, right?
No kids.
Once you have those, your schedule is going to change a little bit.
It will. Well, and that's why we're looking at software systems to be able to put in place, and then team members to be able to empower, and in order for them to take over certain aspects of our business. So we're always looking at how can we, minimize our workload, but also maximize our efficiencies. And that's where we leverage technology in order to do that.
Well, dude, listen, I'm proud I know you. I'm excited about your future. I'm glad we met. I think people meet for reasons, and I think for whatever reason we met so we could stay connected.
Yes,
do me a favor and send me anything you want to plug, and when I put this podcast out, we'll see if we can get you some some interest in what you're doing.
I think the biggest thing we're plugging right now is hybrid athlete training, online health community. We have a healthy cooking class that's live coming up October 3rd. And I can send you that, but
send me the links to that so I can put them on when I put this out on social media. But dude, listen, I know time's valuable, and obviously you have a million things going. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here with me. And send me those links. We'll put them on there. So this is the Ed Franklin No Limits podcast. Another fantastic guest, a mentor under 35. I have to switch because he's growing up, and I have to switch my age group there. You can contact me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. And please share my podcast. I know Nathan will, so he can get the word out. But anyway, dude, thank you very much for being on. Stay on for just a minute. Let me stop this recording, and we'll chat for just a second.